So it's my pleasure to introduce Steve Jarvis to us this afternoon. He's a former editor of the London Philatelist and a member of both the Publications Committee and the IT Committee. He's currently chairman of the West Indies Philatelic Study Group, previously the BWISC. He's a former editor of the Society's Bulletin, and if that's not enough, he looks after the Society's website and is editor and author of several publications on Jamaican philately. His talk today is on the Global Philatelic Library, where he is currently a director. Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Firstly, an explanation. Some of you may have noticed that my speaking voice has gone very wonky these days. There's a problem with my vocal cords, nothing serious, but just a bit damaged over the years. And when I was rehearsing this presentation, I found that after a few minutes, it was a series of croaks coming out. So what I've done is I've actually recorded my script. And so all I need to do here is keep pressing the space bar and everything happens and I can just nod off in the background. So I hope this works. Mike's tested it and he assures me it does work, but so here we go. The Global Philatelic Library was initiated 10 years ago by Chris King, Frank Walton, Alan Holyoake, Greg Spring, and myself. The concept was to provide a focal point for finding information relating to library holdings around the world. Once an item has been identified as being held by a library, a user would look at the library's own website for more information. Where a library did not have its own website containing a listing of their holdings, the GPL website could be used instead. The RPSL catalogue holds information for not just the RPSL, but about 15 other libraries who have contributed data. For sale catalogues, we wanted to go further and record every catalogue that has ever existed and who, if anyone, holds a copy. No, auctions in brackets, as we also include private treaty. Several years ago, Greg Spring had built an application to record sales catalogues, as there wasn't a suitable package available. His design philosophy was utilised as the foundation for providing the current web application as part of the RPSL website catalogue. Therefore, we'll record the existence of a sale catalogue against the GPL virtual library. And then, if a library holds a copy, it is tagged as an accession against the GPL record. So using library jargon, the GPL holds an authority file. That was the theory, and it applies to the RPSL holding, but we encountered problems relating to other libraries that I'll explain later. I'll start with an example of the information held in the RPSL catalogue. After a bit of theory, I'll explain how to find it, challenges, and potential futures. This is an example. I'll say at this stage that we want to slightly improve the layout of the slide, and I will shortly be requesting funding to make changes to this screen and other areas. Top left, we have information about the catalogue. Series title is the auction house. The item title is constructed as the date of the sale, followed by a sale number. Subject is a list of keywords for searching. We then have a list of vendors, the place of the sale and a description, followed by the date and sale number split out. In the middle, we have associated documents. In this case, we have two PDFs which are stored on the RPSL web server. In other cases, it might be a hyperlink to the auction house's own website. By clicking View, the PDF can be seen and downloaded. Depending on an individual's browser settings, this may open in a new window or just download to the local PC. Here we see the first couple of pages of that catalogue. The PDF of this early 1872 auction is available due to the foresight of David Beach, who at the British Library arranged for the Crawford Philatelic Library to be microfilmed, and subsequently these were converted to PDFs and made available to the RPSL. Unfortunately, quite a few of these microfilms / PDFs of auction catalogues have been mislaid and so are not currently available digitally. Returning to the item view, we have a list of accessions, i.e. physical copies. In this case, the RPSL has 2 copies in the stacks downstairs. There are also 2 copies held at the British Library, and you can see the locations and the shelf marks. This last slide shows an experiment adding auction lots against the catalogue. It is possible to add them, but there can be quite a lot of effort required to do so. I think it would need significant development of the application to make it usable. Now some theory. Here we have a simplified data model of how information is stored in the database. The boxes are known as entities or files, and relationships between them are defined. Auction house and organisation go hand in hand, but an organisation might be a publisher as well and might use a different name, so we want to recognise this situation. Defining what is a discrete auction house is a bit subjective. In general, if an auction house such as Spink runs sales in various countries, we often have separate groupings for each, but we also consider whether their sale numbers are continuous across locations. The auction house is assigned to the GPL virtual library, and this library cascades down to all the sales. We then create an entry for each sale. This is a labour-intensive job for the library team of volunteers. John Ray and Rob May do so regularly, keeping up with new acquisitions. Ben Palmer has added a lot of records, particularly relating to the holdings in other libraries. I also work through adding historical catalogues from various sources. When we identify that a library holds a copy of the catalogue, then we create an accession against a location within that library. We can add notes against any of the entities in the centre box. We can also add associated documents at any level. Storing the information is the first step, but not much use if it can't be found and accessed. From the RPSL homepage, or at the top of many other pages, click the catalogue symbol. The homepage will probably change when the redesign of the main website has been done. That takes you to a page with a search dialog at the top, and further down the page are some quick links, which is another way to undertake a database search that I'll explain later. The top search is the most comprehensive as it searches through notes, and also has a thesaurus facility, which for instance would return hits on Zululand if one entered South Africa into the search box. A simple search appears at first, and this can be used when only one search term is required, but I'll use the advanced search, which will reduce the number of search results hits returned. Here I have entered that I am only interested in sales catalogues held by the RPSL. I want to see any sales at Cavendish that also include a keyword of Jamaica. The search found 18 hits, and I'll explain the information presented using the third hit. The left-hand side in turquoise blue is the level of the hit. The bottom one is the actual hit, and the ones above give the contextual information. The next column gives the library code, which for the authority file is GPL, but as the search was restricted to RPSL only catalogues, for which RPSL have an accession, are included. If I had selected the GPL library, it might have returned additional hits, while sale is known to exist, but the RPSL does not have a copy of the catalogue. On the right-hand side, we have more information about the sale. We plan to merge the two information columns and hope to include a list of libraries that hold a copy. If we click grouping, we get the following screen. At the top, we get to see information about the auction house. And if you scroll down the screen, we see a list of auction sales that we have recorded with key information about the subject and vendors. By clicking the title field, you can view more details of the item as shown earlier. And here we see an extract from the screen that I showed earlier. Returning to the search results, by clicking on item, you go directly to the sale details that we saw on the previous slide. Navigating through the previous process can be daunting, and therefore I have created a series of quick links to facilitate the process. Under the full search boxes on the catalogue homepage are a series of quick links. Scroll down and you come to the auction catalogue section. The first box brings up a list of the houses in the database with a count of how many RPSL accessions have been recorded. Clicking on View will open up the group page we saw earlier. Clicking on Holdings gives us at the top of this page some blurb, followed by clicking on View Detail takes you to the item page seen earlier. The holding column states whether the RPSL holds a physical copy or is wanted. Please donate to the library any catalogue that you have that shows wanted. I have been adding in the early Scots catalogues, and you can see that we have a digital copy of the first ever catalogue, courtesy of British Library and David Beach. Above the table are a number of fields for filtering. Here I have put in Scots stamp in the house name filter and begins with 18 in the date. The default filter is contains, but as you can see, top right, there are other options available by clicking the icon. The last column, days, is how long ago RPSL accessioned a physical catalogue, so you could put in 100 to see recent acquisitions. The filtered results can be extracted using the PDF or CSV icons above. We have about 2,000 digital catalogues recorded so far. Click on View Detail against the one to view, and the item page seen earlier appears, which allows you to access the digital catalogue. Clicking on the recent editions box on the catalogue page brings up the same page as previously, but filtered to only show those accessioned in the last 6 months. Similarly, clicking on the digital box brings up the same page as before, but pre-filtered to only show digital holdings. So far, I have added links to all these catalogues. For some, they are links to the catalogues on their own website. In other cases, I have scanned the catalogues and put the PDFs on the FRPSL web server. For an authority file, you need standards, but the same ones aren't necessarily used by all libraries. The first 69 Scott sales were under the name of Scott & Co, but they changed to Scott Stamp and Coin Co, but the sale numbering was continuous. Therefore, we treat them as the same auction house, but store an alternative name. Robson Lowe conducted sales in London, Bournemouth and overseas. The Bournemouth sales had their own numbering, but also shared a numbering sequence with London. At present, we treat them as separate groupings, but we are having a discussion about combining them. We record the auction house name as Lowe, Robson for sorting purposes, but also store Robson Lowe so that searching works whichever style is keyed into the search box. Physical and volunteer resources are always a challenge as well. As I said earlier, we have links to over 2,000 digital catalogues at present. We attempt to obtain permission from the auction house before making a PDF available from our own website. But if they are already in the public domain, then there's no problem just creating a link to their website. Please let myself and Nicola know if you represent an auction house and can obtain permission for us. 20th century catalogues are often already available as PDFs. Please send them in for inclusion. We're closing the British West Indies Study Circle Library, and I'm in the process of scanning in loads of catalogues before dispersing them. Consolidating data from other GPL libraries is a challenge. Matching the information supplied often requires manual inspection, as the completeness and recording standards are very variable, not just between different libraries, but individual entries as well. In order to tackle the availability of human resources, we really need to distribute updates to the authority file and accessions across many libraries. But how this should be organised is not straightforward and would need system enhancements to provide the necessary security controls. Here's a list of tasks that are at the top of my to-do and wish list. I have a long list of other things I'd like to do, but the other will keep me busy for some time. I should say that this couple of days has been quite productive, because I had a good conversation with Richard Morell of the British Library yesterday, and he's agreed to try and hunt down the missing or the mislaid auction catalogues and other things from the Crawford Library for me. I've got to do a bit of digging around because he needs to know the original microfilm numbers for him to start his search, so I need to try and find those somewhere on my computer. Also, I had a good conversation with David Beach yesterday about getting permission to put the Harmer's auction catalogues online, because I've got about 200 of those from the BWI. I've scanned in about 100 of them so far, but David says there shouldn't be any problem with just putting them up, because there's nobody around to ask permission from these days. Yeah, you can see my email address there, so if anybody wants to contribute PDFs or anything like that, just please send them in and I'll sort them out. I was pleased with what Richard had to say, that he'd got quite a few PDFs, so hopefully they'll be in my mailbox shortly. Because email can be a bit dodgy with large files, then use WeTransfer. That's very reliable. So please use that. Okay. Any comments or observations?
Yeah, Steve, thank you very much. Excellent. I have all sorts of trouble when I try and hunt something down using the web. So hopefully your talk will have improved my technique. We're waiting to see. But he's done a huge amount of work on behalf of the GPL with scanning catalogues to put on. It's a massive job he's undertaken. The only downside I see is that going to reduce the value of the ones I hold? The perennial question. Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Well, can I make a comment on that? The scanning of the older catalogues is quite a challenge. The ones that are stapled are quite straightforward because you can lay them flat, but any that are glued spines are horrible. So a lot of the catalogues that are up there, that when you do the scanning, you get distortions. So my attitude is this is a finding aid for you to be able to identify there is a catalogue with some useful information in there, but then you probably need to go to the library to look at the physical copy as well. So hopefully that won't devalue your collection.
Excellent. If you need to buy any from me, you're more than welcome to. Right, questions, yes. Richard is there to ask a question already.
Steve, firstly, any of the PDFs I've got online, I'd be more than happy to send to you, no problem. My question, though, is there an opportunity for gathering data on the number of catalogues which have prices realised already in the catalogue or not in the catalogue?
Physical copies, there is actually a field on the database to say whether or not we've got the prices realised, but it was quite flaky, I think, when we converted the data from Greg's original database in terms of its reliability. So I don't know if Rob or John can comment on prices realised. The ones that I'm scanning in now, where I've got the prices realised, I'm just putting them at the back of the PDF, but I'm not actually recording the fact that they're in there. So it would be a nice surprise when you get to the end of the catalogue.
Yeah, comment on the prices realised issue. The search facility in the search you've just taken us through doesn't include a facility to say, are there prices realised for this catalogue? So there's an improvement that could be made there, I think.
Is the data reliable underlying though?
Well, it's a start. I mean, I have been putting prices realised where I've spotted that they exist, but there's an awful lot where somebody hasn't ticked the box. So we got the prices realised, but we don't know we have.
That's another problem, isn't it? Peter, you have a question.
Yes, has anybody ever either collected or tried to look at or tried to digitise specialist society auctions?
Yes, because you've done the BWISC one, so straight away, yes.
Yeah, well, yeah. Interestingly, I was thinking about it earlier today, and that I haven't actually put the BWISC or West Indies auction catalogues in here. So that's something that I ought to do. But yeah, I'd be happy to put any in that societies want to send forward to me.
Simon? Yeah, thank you.
Well, just picking up on that, actually, and a question I asked you the other day, actually, on our more recent sales is, do we have historical images to take that study circle? But I think the same would be true of some of the auction houses. You have a catalogue, you have a number of images, you have additional images available online. Now, when you're, I think Cavendish definitely do that, where it says see web, and there are a number of houses like it. So how are you going to capture that in future?
I need to clone myself about a dozen times. For Jamaica, which is my specialist area, I actually do download any images that are on the web onto my local PC, but they're only available to me, not to anybody else. But what you saw that I tried to put in individual auction lots as a test there, which the data goes in there. And Greg actually sent me one of his files that goes off to an auction bid company, and that was easy to actually load up there. He forgot to send me the images that went with it, so that they could have gone up as well. So again, for current catalogues, it's doable if we had a few more resources to actually do the uploading for me. For the older catalogues, although they've been scanned in and OCR'd, the OCRing is very dodgy and it needs an awful lot of manual intervention to clean it up before you could load it up into a database.
I do note that in America there are quite a few of the auction houses have put their complete backlisting of their auction catalogues online, which is a fantastic resource.
Yeah,
really good.
well, I've put the links into the Siegel ones into our database so far,
excellent.
and I'll do more when I get time.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Yes, that's more review needed then. Any other questions? Rob again.
Sorry, just on the comment on that, would it be a good idea to publish a standard for the scanning that you want so that the OCR is as crisp as it can be?
I can, yes, I can do. It's basically 300 DPI on it, and that's about all there is. JPEGs. JPEGs, yeah.
I've got a question in the front from Morris. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, regarding the possibility to make some add-on by the members of the GBL, do you think that we can establish a sort of editorial committee to put together the ideas and manage the changes to avoid becoming like Wikipedia?
Yeah, the GPL has got about 10 shareholders in it, and as I said, there's 15 or so libraries there. We did have fairly regular meetings talking about futures, but that's rather died a death since we lost Frank Walton, who was the leading light on this. And we've got some internal discussions going on about the future for the GPL. At the moment, I'm basically a one-man band on the technology side, and that's not sustainable going forward. So we're talking about how we're going to progress the GPL for the future.
Thank you. Any other questions? Everybody remains silent. Steve, thank you very much for your presentation.
I should say, if anybody wants a one-to-one down in the library, I'm happy to see them there. So novel me after I've had a bite of lunch, and we'll go down to the library and do some searching on the web.
Thanks, Steve.